Part 1. What if I told you that in the game of power, being a good person will lead to your ruin? That everything you've been taught about virtue, about kindness, honesty, and compassion, is a liability in the world as it truly is? This is not the advice of some modern-day cynical guru. It is a forbidden secret, whispered across 5 centuries, from a man who dared to write down the unspoken rules of power, a Florentine diplomat named Niccolo Machiavelli. In his infamous handbook, The Prince, he laid bare a terrifying paradox. He argued that a successful leader must learn how to do wrong and to make use of it or not according to necessity, not for the sake of evil, but for the sake of survival. Have you ever felt it? That nagging suspicion that you're watching a performance, that the leader you admire, the brand you buy from, the influencer you follow, is showing you a carefully constructed mask? Stay with me, and I will give you the key to unlock this grand performance. Together, we will decode the art of deception, and in doing so, we will uncover a profound truth about the world we live in and the power we have to navigate it. Part 2. To understand the stage upon which this modern performance is set, we must first travel back not 500 years, but 2,400, to ancient Greece and to the mind of Plato. In his masterwork, The Republic, Plato tells a story, an allegory, that has become uncannily relevant to our time, the allegory of the cave. Imagine a group of people who have lived their entire lives chained inside a dark cave. They can only face forward, staring at a blank wall. Behind them, a fire burns, and between the fire and the prisoners, puppeteers walk along a parapet, holding up objects whose shadows are cast onto the wall. For these prisoners, the shadows are not shadows. They are reality. It is all they have ever known. This ancient allegory is the most powerful metaphor for our modern condition. We, too, are in a cave. But our cave is not made of rock and stone. It is a digital cave. And the wall we are chained to is the glowing screen in our hands. The endless scroll of our social media feeds, the 24-hour news cycle, the torrent of advertisements, this is our wall of shadows. And who are the puppeteers? They are the algorithms. These complex systems designed by platforms like Facebook, Google, and Twitter curate our reality for us. They track our clicks, our likes, our shares, our search history, all to build a profile of who we are and what we want to see. Their goal is not malicious. It is commercial. They are designed to maximize our engagement to sell more ads. But the consequence is the creation of what internet activist Eli Pariser called a filter bubble. We are placed in a state of intellectual isolation, fed a personalized diet of information that confirms what we already believe. We are sealed inside an echo chamber, where our own views are amplified and reflected back at us, while dissenting perspectives are filtered out. We don't even know what we're not seeing. And in this digital cave, the shadows on the wall are almost always performances of virtue. Consider the modern politician. They no longer simply govern. They perform. They hire armies of political image consultants whose sole job is to craft a public persona that appears likable and credible. Every detail is managed. Their haircut, the color of their tie, their accent, their hand gestures. Their social media is a carefully curated stream of authentic moments designed to project specific values. They are building a brand, a shadow on the wall that they hope we will mistake for the real person. Consider the modern corporation. We are now inundated with what is called greenwashing or woke-washing. This is the corporate performance of social and environmental virtue. A fast food giant responsible for immense waste will champion its new paper straws, a symbolic gesture that distracts from its larger environmental impact. An automotive company like Volkswagen can market its clean diesel cars, only for it to be revealed they engineered a defeat device to cheat on emissions tests, polluting far beyond legal limits in reality. These corporations project the shadow of virtue onto the cave wall to win our goodwill and our money, while their actual practices often remain unchanged. And finally, consider the modern influencer. Their entire career is built on a performance of authenticity. They cultivate what researchers call parasocial relationships, one-sided bonds where followers feel a genuine personal connection to them. This feeling is meticulously crafted. They share slice-of-life content, behind-the-scenes glimpses, and personal struggles, all designed to make them seem relatable and trustworthy. But this curated authenticity is itself a product, a performance designed to build a loyal following that can then be monetized through sponsorships and sales. We are surrounded by these performances. The virtuous politician, the ethical corporation, the authentic influencer. These are the shadows dancing on our screens. And it creates a deep, unsettling confusion. In a world of polished masks and curated realities, how can we possibly know what is real? Who can we trust? To find the answer, we must turn to the man who wrote the playbook for the puppeteers. Part 3. To escape the cave, we must first understand the mind of the man who designed its shadows. Niccolo Machiavelli, born in Florence, Italy, in 1469, lived in a world of brutal, shifting alliances and constant political turmoil. He was not a philosopher in an ivory tower. He was a diplomat, a political advisor, a man who saw power up close in all its naked, unforgiving reality. And what he saw led him to a revolutionary conclusion. For centuries, philosophers had written Mirror for Princes books, advising rulers on how to be good, just, and pious, based on Christian morality and idealized visions of humanity. Machiavelli saw this as a fatal error. In chapter 15 of The Prince, he announces his radical departure. He declares that he will ignore the imaginary republics of the past and focus on the real truth of the matter. And the real truth is this: how one lives is so far distant from how one ought to live that he who neglects what is done for what ought to be done sooner effects his ruin than his preservation. In a world where so many men are not good, a leader who tries to be good in all his actions will inevitably be destroyed. This was the foundation of his political realism. For Machiavelli, there were two distinct moralities: one for the private citizen, who could afford to be judged by God and his conscience, and another for the public leader, the prince, whose highest duty was not to his own soul, but to the security and survival of the state. For a prince, an action is not good or evil in the traditional sense. It is only effective or ineffective at maintaining power and stability. From this cold, pragmatic foundation, we arrive at his most famous and most misunderstood piece of advice. He argues that a prince must master the art of perception. He writes, "It is unnecessary for a prince to have all the good qualities I have enumerated, but it is very necessary to appear to have them. He must project an image of being merciful, faithful, humane, religious, and upright. This appearance of virtue is a tool, a way to win the approval and loyalty of the people, which is essential for a stable rule." But here is the paradox. While projecting this virtuous image, the prince must be mentally prepared in his very soul to act in defiance of good faith, of charity, of kindness, of religion, when the survival of the state demands it. He must be able to turn his nature accordingly as the winds and variations of fortune force it. The appearance is for the people. The ruthless pragmatism is for reality. This leads directly into his chilling analysis of human psychology, encapsulated in the question, is it better for a ruler to be loved or to be feared? Ideally, Machiavelli concedes, a prince should be both. But since it is difficult to unite the two, he concludes it is much safer to be feared than loved. His reasoning is based on his bleak assessment of human nature. Men, he writes, are ungrateful, fickle, liars and deceivers, avoiders of danger, greedy for profit. Love, he argues, is a bond of obligation which these wretched creatures will break whenever it serves their own self-interest. Fear, however, is different. Fear is sustained by a dread of punishment which is always effective. Love is a sentiment held by the subjects and is therefore unreliable. Fear is an emotion controlled by the prince and is therefore constant. But Machiavelli adds a crucial and often overlooked third dimension to this equation. A prince must, above all else, avoid being hated. Fear keeps subjects in line. Hatred inspires them to conspire and rebel. And what breeds hatred most effectively? Taking a man's property or his wife. Therefore, any cruelty must be well justified and swift. It must be seen as a necessary punishment for a crime, not the arbitrary whim of a tyrant. The hierarchy of power is clear. A prince should strive to be feared, can do without being loved, but must never, ever be hated. So how does a prince navigate this treacherous landscape? How can one person be both virtuous in appearance and vicious in action, merciful and cruel, honest and deceitful? Machiavelli provides a final, powerful metaphor. The prince must become a hybrid creature, half man and half beast. And as a beast, he must learn to imitate two animals, the lion and the fox. The lion represents force, strength, and power. The lion can frighten off wolves, meaning it can defeat its enemies in open combat. But the lion, for all its strength, is defenseless against traps and snares. The fox represents cunning, intelligence, and deception. The fox can recognize traps, meaning it can navigate the world of diplomacy, conspiracy, and hidden threats. But the fox, for all its cleverness, is defenseless against wolves. A prince, therefore, cannot be just a lion or just a fox. He must be both. He must possess the lion's ferocity to crush his opponents when necessary, but also the fox's cunning to know when to break a promise, when to feign friendship, and when to manipulate the perceptions of those around him. This ability to adapt, to skillfully wield both force and fraud, to be both beast and man, is the essence of what Machiavelli called virtù. It is not moral virtue. It is the skill of a master statesman, the prowess required to impose one's will upon the chaos of fortune and forge a stable state from the wretched material of human nature. This entire framework, the need for an appearance of virtue, the calculus of fear, the duality of the lion and the fox, all stems from one single, unwavering premise: that humans are fundamentally self-interested creatures. If you accept that premise, every piece of Machiavelli's advice clicks into place, not as a guide to evil, but as a cold, logical, and terrifyingly consistent system for managing power in a world that does not play by the rules of Sunday school. He gave us the blueprint, and now we can see it being used everywhere. Part 4. Once you possess Machiavelli's key, you can begin to unlock the hidden machinery of our modern world. The performances that once seemed confusing or hypocritical suddenly reveal their inner logic. The stage is our media landscape, but the play was written 500 years ago. Let's start with the modern corporation. Think of it as a prince. Its principality is its market share. Its subjects are us, the consumers. Its highest goal is the security and stability of its profits. Now look at the rise of greenwashing. When a company like Coca-Cola, one of the world's largest plastic polluters, launches a World Without Waste campaign, this is a perfect Machiavellian move. It is appearing virtuous. It is projecting the image of being merciful and humane toward the planet. Why? To win the goodwill of the people. But behind this facade, the necessity of profit often dictates that its core business model, reliant on single-use plastics, continues largely unchanged. It is knowing how to do wrong while maintaining a virtuous appearance. The goal of this performance is to avoid being hated by consumers, to prevent boycotts and backlash that would threaten the stability of its kingdom. It is pure Machiavellian strategy, where corporate social responsibility is a tool of statecraft. Now, turn to the modern politician. They are the most direct inheritors of Machiavelli's advice, mastering the duality of the lion and the fox. The fox is their public face. It is the cunning manipulation of perception. They use image consultants and PR firms to meticulously craft an authentic-seeming persona, appearing religious, compassionate, and trustworthy. They use the media to tell stories, to create a narrative, to ensure their subjects see them as virtuous leaders. The lion is their hidden weapon. It is the use of force. In modern politics, this is often the force of divisive rhetoric. It is using fear to polarize the public, to solidify a base of support, and to frighten off the wolves, their political opponents. They create an us versus them mentality, because a population united in fear of a common enemy is easier to control. The end, winning the election and holding power, justifies the means of this dual strategy of deception and division. Finally, look at the world of the social media influencer. They are micro-princes, ruling over digital principalities of attention. Their power, too, is built on Machiavellian principles. Their primary performance of virtue is authenticity. They share seemingly candid slice-of-life moments and behind-the-scenes content to appear relatable and real. This is how they get their followers to love them, forging powerful one-sided parasocial bonds. But they also wield a subtle form of fear. Not the fear of execution, but the fear of missing out, the fear of being uncool, the fear of not having the right products to live the right kind of life. This combination of cultivated love and induced anxiety is incredibly effective at driving consumer behavior. The curated persona, the performance of friendship, is a means to an end. Influence, which translates directly into financial power. They are securing their state, one sponsored post at a time. What connects all of these modern performances is that they take place in a new kind of reality. The French philosopher Jean Baudrillard called it hyperreality. He argued that in our media-saturated world, the simulation has become more real than the real. The signs and images that are supposed to represent reality have detached from it and have replaced it entirely. Think of Disneyland. It is not a representation of a real place. It is a simulation that, for those inside it, feels more real and more perfect than the messy world outside. The same is true for the performances we see on our screens. The politician's curated persona isn't a mask hiding the real person. For most of us, that persona is the person. The corporation's greenwashed advertisement isn't a lie about its practices. It is the company's identity in the public mind. The influencer's staged, authentic moment is the only reality of them their followers will ever know. This is the ultimate evolution of Machiavelli's strategy. He advised princes to master the appearance of virtue because he knew how powerful perception is. But in our hyper-real world, perception is all there is. The shadows on the cave wall are no longer just shadows. They are our reality. Machiavelli wasn't just a political theorist. He was a prophet of the media age. He understood, 500 years ago, the fundamental truth of the 21st century. Whoever controls the performance, whoever masters the art of the shadow, controls the cave. Part 5. To see the world through this lens can be disheartening. It can feel as though everything is a manipulation, that truth is a lost cause, and that we are all just players in a cynical game. But this is not the lesson we should take. The goal of this knowledge is not to become a cynic. The goal is to become immune. Machiavelli's The Prince was written as a handbook for rulers, but its greatest value today is as a field guide for citizens. He gave us the blueprint for how power operates. He decoded the logic of the puppeteers, and by understanding the game, we are no longer unwitting pawns within it. To know how you are being manipulated is the first, crucial step toward freedom. It is the first moment the prisoner in the cave turns their head and sees the fire. This knowledge provides us with a new mental framework, a set of critical questions we can apply to the shadows on our screens. When you see a performance of virtue, a politician's heartfelt speech, a corporation's ethical ad campaign, ask yourself, what actions might this performance be designed to conceal? What is the necessity, as Machiavelli would say? that is driving this display. When a leader, brand, or influencer wants you to love them, ask, what do they want from me in return? And when they use fear of an enemy, of missing out, of the future, ask, what are they trying to control? Are they acting as a lion, with overt force and aggressive rhetoric? Or are they a fox, with subtle cunning and deception? And what does their choice of animal tell you about the threat they perceive and the game they are playing? This is the very essence of critical thinking and media literacy. It is the conscious effort to break free from our own echo chambers by actively seeking out different sources and diverse perspectives. It is the discipline to look past the emotional headline, to verify the source, and to question the narrative being sold to us. The world is a stage, and many of those in power are merely actors reading from a 500-year-old script. Understanding Machiavelli does not teach you how to build a better mask for yourself. It teaches you how to see, with perfect clarity, the person behind the mask of another. And in that lies the ultimate empowerment. The greatest power is not the power to deceive others, but the power to not be deceived yourself, to be the ruler of your own mind. In a world of shadows, the one who can distinguish the flicker from the flame, the performance from the person, is the only one who is truly free.